Ahkello Witherspoon was two players last season. First, he was one of the best players on the 49ers. Then he was one of the worst. It started off in training camp. He was fantastic. He shut down every wide receiver he faced. Granted, he was mostly facing Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin, but he made play after play after play, intercepted passes, broke passes up, built up a ton of confidence going against some suspect wide receivers and playing behind the best front seven and pass rush in the league. Witherspoon was coming off a tough 2018, needed to rebound, and at the time during camp, the team seemed to feel like Witherspoon had rebounded and was going to have a great season. That confidence in Witherspoon carried over to the first two games. He started week 1 against Tampa and week 2 against Cincinnati and was just fantastic. Matched up man-to-man in the season opener against Mike Evans, who's an elite wide receiver, and shut him down man-to-man on a deep pass down the sideline. Witherspoon was playing with so much confidence, and when you watch the film, it was clear he was the best cornerback on the team, not Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman was the most experienced, the savviest, but just in terms of physical ability, Witherspoon looked like he could hang with any wide receiver in the league. He was that good the first 2 weeks. Week 3, the Niners played the Steelers, and Witherspoon got hurt, injured his foot in an innocuous-looking special teams play, missed a couple months, finally regained his starting spot week 13 and gave up 8 touchdowns over the next 6 games, including the playoffs, and got benched twice. Was not part of the defense during the Super Bowl and probably won't be a starter next year. It looked like Emmanuel Mosley has taken his spot. So let's review Ahkello Witherspoon's 2019 season. Let's remind ourselves just how dominant he was the first couple of games and try to figure out what went so horribly, horribly wrong after he returned from the foot injury. Here he is week 1 against the Bucs. Witherspoon's at the top of your screen, lined up man-to-man against Mike Evans, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Remember, the Bucs don't know about Ahkello Witherspoon's training camp. They weren't there. For all they know, he's the same guy who struggled in 2018. This is the season opener of 2019, so they need to test him and find out what he can really do. So they're going to test him by putting their best wide receiver against him. Let's see how that works out. No separation, runs stride for stride, turns his head, finds the ball, breaks up the pass. This is why the 49ers were so confident in Ahkello Witherspoon and felt that he was their best cornerback on the team earlier in the season, better than Sherman. And this is precisely when the Bucs realized that they tested the wrong cornerback on the 49ers. The thing that stuck out to me more than anything from that previous clip was Ahkello Witherspoon's confidence. I mean, yeah, he's athletic. Yeah, that was a highly skilled play, but so confident going man-to-man against one of the best wide receivers in the league. Previous video I made about Emmanuel Mosley showed his strengths and weaknesses, and one of his weaknesses was being a little conservative, conceding the short catches, especially on second down. This is 2nd and 10. Watch how confident and aggressive Witherspoon was on second down early in the season. This is week 1 against the Bucs. I mean, I'll put it in slow motion. If it's Mosley, a lot of times he's bailing deep and not in a position to break up this pass. Witherspoon's almost baiting it, gets in a position to break it up, and he almost intercepts it. Here he is week 2 in Cincinnati against the Bengals, bottom of your screen. I'm going to play this one in slow motion so you can really appreciate it because it's probably the best play of his career. Remember, I mentioned Mosley's a little conservative, gives big cushions, doesn't want to get beat deep. Witherspoon was so aggressive early in the season. He understood he was playing behind the best pass rush in the league. He understood the ball was coming out quick, and he anticipated it. Here he's eyeballing Andy Dalton, barely backs up at all, breaks on the pass before the wide receiver turns his head, almost picks it off, should have been a pick 6. Look at how confident he's playing here. Then at the end of the play, he kicks the ball and gets an unnecessary 15-yard penalty, which is bad. But if you see it from the end zone angle, you notice that he kicks the ball and beans the cameraman right in the head. Seems to me the Niners should have gotten at least an extra 3 points from that kick. More superb coverage from Ahkello Witherspoon week 2 against the Bengals. He's at the bottom of your screen here. Going to face a double move. Wide receiver's going to go out and up. Tough route to cover man-to-man. Watch what Witherspoon does with it. Spins around, matches the receiver stride for stride, gives Andy Dalton nowhere to complete the pass. Beautiful coverage. Remember in the Emmanuel Mosley video when I showed you how he struggles to defend comeback routes? He gives up too much separation at the top of the route. It's a little conservative, doesn't want to get beat deep. Well, again,
Compare that to Ahkello Witherspoon. Here he is, week 2, defending a comeback. Watch how aggressive and athletic he is. Watch how he stops instantly. Backpedaling in zone coverage, eyes on the quarterback, sees him start his motion, breaks down immediately, breaks down as quickly as the wide receiver, which is hard to do. I mean, the wide receiver knows when the pass is coming, the cornerback doesn't. But again, let's watch it in full screen. Just slams on the brakes, pass break up. That's elite cornerback play. So this is week 3 against the Steelers. Witherspoon's confidence is at a career high. Word is getting around the league that he is the guy you got to avoid. Steelers don't really go after him until this moment here, midway through the third quarter. They got Witherspoon over here defending a bunch set. This lets the Steelers know it's man-to-man. If it were zone, he'd be over here, but he's not. So they got him in a man-to-man in the middle of the field. They're going to run him on a deep crossing route, kind of like what the Cardinals did to Emmanuel Mosley. Mosley really struggled against the crossing routes and man-to-man coverage. Let's see what Witherspoon does here. Going up against Juju Smith-Schuster right here. In good position. Running with him. Coverage is fine. Gives up the catch, but he's right there. And now he misses the tackle. And Tavarius Moore takes a bad angle, and it's a long touchdown. This was the first bad play of the season for Ahkello Witherspoon. Every cornerback has bad plays. The issue with him is, how does he respond? Because the issue in the past, he's been not mentally resilient. Richard Sherman is. Richard Sherman could give up this play and still believe he's the best cornerback of all time. Witherspoon, when he gives up a catch, it seems like he starts to doubt himself. So the question was, how would he respond after this play? We never really got to see how Witherspoon would bounce back from his first bad play of 2019 because the next series the Steelers went 3 and out. Then they punted. Here's Witherspoon at the bottom of your screen. Watch what happened. Everything's fine at this point. Just trying to block this guy. All of a sudden, at the end of the play, starts limping. Hard to see from that angle, but let's look at it from the end zone. I'll slow it down at the end. On your left. Just stepped awkwardly. Hurt his foot. Would not start another game until week 13. Here's Witherspoon's first start since he injured his foot week 3 against the Steelers. He's at the top of your screen against the Ravens. Watch what happens. This was the beginning of a stretch where anything that could go wrong did go wrong for Ahkello Witherspoon, and most of it has had to do with being tentative in ways that he was not earlier in the season. I'm going to do this in slow motion and pause it right here. This is cover 3. He's a deep third defender. He's in a conundrum. He's in a tough spot. He's got this guy here on the outside and this tight end coming down the middle. What he needs to do is split the difference, be in the middle, and be in position to defend either one, although he's kind of in no man's land. He doesn't get in the middle. He stays with this guy and leaves the tight end wide open in the middle of the field. That's a bad play. Hesitates. Didn't hesitate like that earlier in the season, and his replacement, Emmanuel Mosley, was actually quite good at splitting the difference in deep zone coverage. That was one area where Mosley was better than Witherspoon. Next week, week 14, in New Orleans, different team, same mistake. This time he's playing deep zone coverage. He's got to split the difference, and he doesn't. He stays on the outside. Notice who he's covering here. That's Taysom Hill, a quarterback. He sticks with Taysom. Now, Azeez Al-Shaair can't let Jared Cook just run by him. It's not just Ahkello Witherspoon's fault, but in this situation, he has to be in here, not here. He reacts too late. He's sticking with the quarterback decoy running down the side of the field. Doesn't react quick enough to get to Jared Cook. Gets there late, knocks him out of the game, concusses him, but it's still a touchdown, and that's still 7 points for the Saints. Remember how confidently Witherspoon covered Mike Evans week 1 before he injured his foot? Here he is covering Michael Thomas week 14 after injuring his foot. Oh, treats him like his little brother. Where'd the confidence go? I mentioned earlier in the video how we needed to see how Witherspoon would respond to making a bad play because his issues are usually mental. They usually involve confidence. Well, in this game against the Saints, he's already given up 2 touchdowns. Let's see if he bounces back and prevents giving up a third. Slow motion here. Speed it up for a second. But we notice Witherspoon's right here, covering a tight end. Coverage is great. Problem is, ball goes here to Traquan Smith. Here's Ahkello Witherspoon. He needs to make this tackle to prevent a touchdown. Not only does he not make the tackle, he whiffs entirely. I mean, let's watch it one more time just so there's no dispute about whether he touched this wide receiver. There was no touch. And that's the 3rd touchdown Witherspoon gave up. So now Witherspoon's confidence is crushed. The league knows it, and they're going to pick on him as much as possible, especially in the red zone, because he gives up 7-point mistakes. Week 16 against the Rams at home. Here he is at the top of your screen. Zone coverage, play action rollout to the Rams left. Witherspoon sees the quarterback, sees the wide receiver, knows he has to cover Brandon Cooks, thinks he's close enough to break up this pass, but just hesitates right there on his left foot and can't get there. Gives up a touchdown he never should have gave up. And that's just pure hesitancy, zero confidence. Next week in Seattle, Witherspoon makes the same exact mistake. It's the very next game. It's the top of your screen. In the red zone, he's given up 5 touchdowns since returning from his injury. He knows they're coming for him. He's back in zone coverage. Here's Tyler Lockett, just like on the previous clip where it was Brandon Cooks. This time, he's really not trying to keep his eyes in 2 places. He's totally focused on Lockett, but has no idea when the ball's going to come and lets Lockett catch it anyway, even though he's totally mugging him. This is another situation where, like, the coverage isn't terrible, but his confidence is clearly low, and you can see he's expecting bad things to happen to him. This was Witherspoon's final play of the 2019 regular season. Late in the 4th quarter, close game. Remember, the Niners won this one by an inch when Dre Greenlaw tackled Jacob Hollister at the 1-inch line. Here's Witherspoon defending DK Metcalf in the red zone. And here's DK Metcalf scoring the easiest touchdown of his career. Let's watch it one more time because I was distracting you at the beginning. But look, pressed man coverage. Witherspoon's job is to jam the wide receiver, at least touch him, slow him down somehow. Instead, doesn't touch him, lets Metcalf run right by him, gets outrun in a 10-yard race, and watches as Metcalf scores a touchdown. The Niners benched Witherspoon after this play, and this was the first time they benched him, but it wouldn't be the last. 49ers gave Witherspoon one more chance to start. This was the very next game, their first playoff game against the Vikings at home. And here's what Witherspoon did with his second chance. Bottom of the screen against Stephon Diggs, excellent wide receiver. Again, press man coverage, does a better job jamming him, gets his hands on him at least, doesn't let him run right by him. Running stride for stride, gets his head around, loses track of the ball, gets shoved aside, falls down, flails around, watches Stephon Diggs score a touchdown. This was his final defensive play of 2019. They benched him for good after this and for good reason. Let's watch it from over here. So, look, projecting ahead to next season, Witherspoon's clearly an athletic, he's gifted athletically, he's skilled. The Niners are going to build up his confidence in training camp, and he should come into 2020, if he wins a starting job, which is no guarantee, playing really well because he's gifted. But when he gives up one bad play, will things snowball on him? Will he let one bad play lead to 8 touchdowns given up in a 5-week span like last year? It's possible. But if that happens, his career is over. He needs to show that he's more mentally resilient in 2020.